Shaylin Allison is another MA candidate in the Department of Art History and Visual Studies at UVic, and her talk is called, this is a tough one, Anishinaabe? How do you pronounce it?
Anishinaabe, yeah.
Anishinaabe, Drumming and Visual Art, Engagements and Influences. Over to you.
Hi everyone. Ani biju gishigate ko indigenous cause kiraganzi bien dojba. So Anishinaabe Mo, and I've said hello. My name is Shaylin Allison. I'm Anishinaabe and Korean from Garden River First Nation in Northern Ontario. Today I am honoring my grandmothers by talking about the Anishinaabe hand drum, which is associated with grandmothers. So I'm also acknowledging where I come from through my grandmothers, so Mississauga First Nation, Sioux Tribe Chippewa Indians, and also Changyang, South Korea. So on this note, I feel very honored to be here today to say where I come from, as I respectfully acknowledge that we are gathered here as uninvited visitors on the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nation, who are the traditional keepers of this land. In this presentation, I'm showing the multifunctionality and interrelationality of the Anishinaabe hand drum, so known in our language as the Dwegan, as an art form, object, and musical instrument, and most importantly, sacred object. I will be doing this by briefly discussing the Anishinaabe worldview, showing some examples of painted hand drums, discussing the process as an art form, and looking at the role of the instrument in ceremony. As per some of the prompts we were sent to consider, I'm addressing the question of how visual arts are inspired by music, but I'm reframing it within an Indigenous context where I hope to convey that with the Anishinaabe hand drum, visual art and music are reciprocal, relational, and reliant on each other. The drum is not itself without any element, and the interconnectedness of the relationship of art and music speaks of its most important function, so ceremony and storytelling. And this picture here is a drum I made a few weeks ago. It is deer, hide, and cedar round. So some of the key ideas I want to talk about here, I've listed about reciprocity, relationality, conveying the Anishinaabe worldview. I wanted to start with a beautiful drum painted by Chippewa artist Chief Ladybird from Rama First Nation in Ontario, so you can kind of have a better idea of what I'm talking about. So talking about the Anishinaabe worldview, traditional stories shape our worldview, establish our connection to our homelands and language. It's very community-based and used in ceremony. So this is just a small overview. Worldview is rooted in and shaped by sacred stories, and these stories are seen as the vessels that carry our knowledge, a way of understanding our place in the world and knowing how to navigate it. And then the sharing of sacred stories itself is also a reciprocal form of gift giving, which relates to the reciprocity of music and art with the drum. These stories can connect us to each other in this way. According to the Anishinaabe and Métis scholar Melissa K. Nelson, not only do our stories trace back to the beginning of time, but they are becoming new and fresh each time they're told, and they can act as medicine this way and provide new meanings and new times, which is why it feels so special to share this today to a new audience. So one of the most important teachings I've come to know through this is reciprocity and relationality that I'll be talking a lot today. And when we share these creation stories or other teachings about our drums, we are honoring ancestors and future descendants by keeping culture alive. And this is in alignment with the idea of honoring 7 generations back and making things better for 7 generations forward. So I'll share a brief retelling of one of the creation stories, the 7 Fires creation story. So it was retold by Leanne Batasmosaki Simpson, who's a Michisagi Anishinaabe scholar. So she's retelling it as she heard it from Elder Edna Manitowabi, who said that the stars carry the first knowledge that Creator put in the world, and they act as a reminder that thought, which was represented by the sound of the rattle, another Anishinaabe instrument, must be combined with heart and motion, which is represented by the sound of the drum, like the drum and the heartbeat, and that they must be combined in order to have energy and influence, so that the drum and the rattle, 2 of our instruments, become the sounds of the sky world, holding the universe together, because sound creates and maintains relationships that embody both intellectual and emotional knowledge. So I wanted to show some really beautiful examples. So again, Chief Ladybird is again from Rama. In these examples, you can see animals that are common in our homelands or significant in our sacred stories, or just significant to the person. Sometimes drum designs can even act as legal text. They can have a lot of functions. So you can see some berries here, salmon berries, some of our animals. It's in woodland style of art. And even some nods I really like to Indigenous futurisms in the top left drum with the spaceship. and some work by another Anishinaabe artist, Emily Kawagishig. We can see an eagle on the drum, and it was made for a raffle to raise money for her family. And this other painting just shows the interconnectivity and holistic role of the hand drum, and it's often associated with women. So I thought it was great to see an example of a painted drum and then a painting of a drum as well. I also want to talk about the drum making process as an art form. So like I said, a few weeks ago, I made a drum at UVic with some other Indigenous master students. So I wanted to show this, that it's rooted in relationality. We made it together. The drums that I have made have been of deer hide and cedar round, but I made them with the help of knowledge keepers, both in Algonquin territory and in Victoria, so in Lekwungen territory. So they prepared the material. So I guess I haven't really taken part in the full process, which would include hunting the deer, skinning the deer, cleaning the hide. Sometimes they will tan the hide with the brains, but they're using every part of the deer, even the bones. So you also need to go about ethically harvesting the cedar and doing it at the right time of the year, and then carving whatever wood you're using. So it's a very intensive process, and throughout you must be honoring and mourning the animal. So I started with the hide already cut into rounds and the wood already prepared as seen in the photo. And I had to use that hole punch to make every single hole. So it was a little hard, but it was really wonderful to have the experience where we arrived and we didn't start making them right away. We sat in a circle for maybe over an hour. We talked to each other, said we're from, who our families are, connected. We listened to the knowledge keepers' stories and teachings about the deer in their territory, and we began building a relationship. So the process of drum making in itself is not something you can just go into. It needs to be grounded in this relationality and reciprocity. Again, speaking to the relationship, like I'm saying, of the drum as an art object and its ability to make music and be used in ceremony. More photos. So I included some teachings of the drum. I think if we're talking about it, it's important to understand how really sacred it is as an item. And I included strawberries. Strawberries are connected to the drum. When you can awaken it or feast it, strawberry and heart have the same word, ode. So for me, when I awakened my drum, I smeared strawberries on it. That's kind of giving your drum its heart. It also kind of stained the drum a bit, so that created a visual element as well, so I'll keep remembering that whenever I look at it. Again, seeing the drum as a relative, often it's grandmother, but I've also been told when I made my first drum that it was to treat it like a baby and to be very kind to it, and just being around it with good thoughts and taking really good care of it. This is a picture of me with some of the students that I made my drum with. I thought that was important to include to really emphasize the sense of community and relationality. I also included a strawberry I beaded and how these teachings can come about in so many different forms of visual art that we're expressing, and then a photo of ethically harvesting blueberries in my land, which was really a wonderful experience and something to keep in mind of, that all of our actions are connected in this way. And it also speaks to some of the methodology that really grounds my research. So the communities of care methodology proposed by Adrienne Huard and Dana Danger in an Indigenous context. It's grounded in relationality, consent, and community, and it's a really important way for me to approach this type of research. Sacred songs and ceremonies. So as I've shown the visual art aspect, I really wanted to show what the drum music means for community and how it's used. So there are songs that are made to honor women, to honor water, to honor spirits, to honor the drum itself, for enduring hardship, even if there's fun ones, there's one that talks about going into Tim Hortons or Scooby-Doo, and connection. So I've heard many times that the drum beat represents the heartbeat of Mother Earth, and drums are often associated with women, grandmothers, the moon, and strawberries. As I mentioned, they have the same word, so I thought that was really special. And also talking about different types of drums. So there's water drums, which are more sacred, or it's wooden kettle drums that are only to be used in ceremony. They reach special tones, and they're often made of basswood or cedar. So Basil Johnston, really prolific Ojibwe writer, explained in one of his many books, Ojibwe Ceremonies, that when the kettle drum was first given to the Anishinaabe to express themselves, the sound of the drum transcended what humans could understand. And so it was decided that it was the best way to communicate with the spirit world. He wrote that while the Anishinaabe drum, they chanted so that their petitions were borne by the echo of the drum and transformed into the language of the spirits who dwelled above and below and beyond. And another one of my favorite texts centering Anishinaabe studies by James Sinclair, Heidi Stark, and Jill Dorfler, the Anishinaabe professor, Carrie Miller, notes that the drum's unique sound instantly would indicate to the community that a medicine ceremony was in session. And she also writes that these sacred drums were given to the Anishinaabe through dreams, so that's really common in oral tradition, as learning, teachings, and ceremonies from the spirit realm would help improve the lives of the Anishinaabe. So to conclude, the multifunctionality of the Anishinaabe hand drum is a really special example of the intersections of music, visual art, and the sacred, and they are interrelated, connected, and dependent on each other, becoming sacred together and reflecting the Anishinaabe worldview with their storytelling and their connections to ceremony. That's all.